Welcome to On Deck with Maestro. I'm Kostis Protopapas, Artistic and General Director of Opera Santa Barbara. This is the first episode of a new series that our company is launching on YouTube. We are on board Sparrow, the lovely Catalina 250 here at Marina 1 on the Santa Barbara Harbor. We will be inviting artists and professionals from the opera world and the arts world and talk to them about their work, about their experiences and opinions about the art form and the business, and about the things that they're passionate about. Behind the camera is Julia Lieberman, OSB's company and media manager. For the first episode, we've kept it pretty close to home. Our guest today is Nina Dunbar, who recently returned to Opera Santa Barbara as the Deputy General Director for Strategic Initiatives. It is a position that we created precisely to lure her back to the company. She was our development director from 2018 until 2023, and for the last 2 years, she has been working as a donor advisement officer at the Santa Barbara Education Foundation. Nina was born in New Orleans and was trained as a visual artist, and she has had a very multifaceted and exciting career as an artist, she's been working in the public arts sector, and she has been working in fundraising for various nonprofit organizations, including several performing arts ones. Nina, welcome on board, literally and metaphorically, and welcome to the show.
Love it.
Yeah, great. How's Opera Santa Barbara treating you?
Well, meeting here for any event is great. I love it. I love coming out to the Sparrow anytime I can come.
So you've worked in a lot of nonprofits here in Santa Barbara. You've worked around the country. You were with us for a good 4 years, and you were, in a way, you shaped who our company is now. And then you left for a while, and now you're back. What drew you back?
Well, I was lucky to be your first development director, and so that was great, building a department. As you know, I came from different professions, but not opera, so I had to learn a lot. And then, shortly after I got there, we had the pandemic. What a wild ride.
I know. You
and I had so much fun creating new programs, flying by the seat of our pants, and having a great time bringing opera to our community in new and unique ways.
Yeah, it was great to have you on board during that period of time. It was a great time to have a team that had courage and imagination and motivation to keep our artists busy, keep our community entertained and inspired, and it was an epic time for sure.
Yeah, I stepped away. I had some family that I needed to attend to, wanted to try something else, and over the years that I was away, you and I continued to talk. I continued to work with you as your grant writer. So I developed a different kind of relationship. And sometimes stepping away from an organization gives you a new perspective, a little bit of time. And when you and some of the board members began to try to coax me back, I began to sort of do an assessment. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about your third act, something I learned from Jane Fonda, but it is, what do you want to do in the last 30 years of your life? What's important? Like you, I come from the arts. I want to finish my career with the arts. I feel very strongly about the future of the arts and their importance to my life and the communities that I live in. The second thing is always people. Who are the people that you want to be around? It became very clear that the people I met at the opera, both in the audience, in the boardrooms, and definitely in Team OSB, were people I wanted to be around. And finally, I think there was some unfinished business here.
There's always unfinished business at Opera Santa Barbara.
You always want to feel like you can make a difference, and I think my time apart and our conversations made me realize that I had something more to give. So you invited me back. You offered to have me make my own job description. That's a hard offer not to refuse. And And we had a lot of fun. And thinking about that job description, it gave me a lot of ideas about what I could do at Opera Santa Barbara.
Speaking of which, your title is Deputy General Director for Strategic Initiatives. You and I know what that means. We actually had to work hard to come up with it. We wanted a title that reflects your seniority, the breadth of your responsibilities, and also wanted to be something that is unique to our company and reflects the somewhat unique and unusual identity of our company. But a lot of people are probably wondering what that is. They're probably your friends. You say, I'm Deputy General Director for Strategic Initiatives, but probably asking, what is that? What do you tell them?
Well, first thing, we weren't very strategic in thinking about my business card because it does not fit. So around the office, I'm just called deputy. That's okay. But I think I love the fact that we have created a position with the word strategy in it, because I think too often nonprofits create a strategic plan maybe every 5 years, they work really hard and they put it in the shelf, and then it's almost like strategy goes away with that idea. By having a dedicated position to strategic initiatives, it tells the world and the company that strategy is a part of our culture. It's what we do every day. We think strategically and we don't stop. And I think it's a great role for doing all the things that your small team can't do individually. We have a lot of great ideas. My own background allows me to maybe be the glue for some of those ideas. And you and I talk, I think some of it is, that's not such a good idea. This is a good idea. Let's make it happen. And that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, actually bringing you back on the team in this capacity, to me the idea came from the fact that all the entire time we're talking, you had a lot of ideas and you were saying, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? So I said, well, why don't you just come over here and do all those things rather than telling me to do? And so what are some things that, can you share with folks anything about any particular projects that, are emerging? And, as you said, I basically gave you carte blanche in that sense. We're looking for new strategic initiatives, new ways. Basically, we're here to do things that we haven't been doing. So can you share with folks what some of those are and might be more excited about?
Absolutely. There are 3 different areas that I am excited about doing, but there are also areas that need to happen that I will be doing as well. But one of my fondest memories of Opera Santa Barbara was during the pandemic, when we did things like Opera in Your Car. We did Opera Sings for You, Operation Euripides. And I think Opera Santa Barbara is already doing a great job on stage. Quality programming is what we are known for, and I can't really improve upon that. What I'm interested in is incorporating opera into the fabric of our community. How does Opera Santa Barbara interface with our community off stage? With our events, with pop-up activities, some of the things we're talking about right now, everything from collaborating with Pianos on State to creating other experiences on State Street and beyond State Street, Opera in the Park. Where do we go with our local restaurants and other businesses? What is our relationship to other community activities here that we can be a part of and include our singers and Team OSB? So opera off stage is one. I think the other thing is, opera isn't my first art form, so I'm always learning. And Tim Accurso and the entire team has been very generous to me in helping me get more familiar with opera. But I'm always really excited about education. So adult education, how do I learn more and get closer to the company? My gateway to this program and opera in general were some of our singers in the library. Getting this close to Max Potter and hearing her perform made it really real for me. So right now, one of our strategic initiatives is returning opera programming to our schools. Tim Accurso is working on a really exciting program with AI and artists in schools. How do you mix that? How do you create that? I want to help him fund it. I want to help him write the parameters for that program and test it. That's a typical strategic initiative.
Yes.
The final big project that you and I have been working on since I came there, and that is, what does sustainable growth look like for a small, high-quality performing arts community organization like Opera Santa Barbara, and a very rich, culturally rich, small community? How do we build our programming out with our community in a way that makes us financially sound, allows us creative growth, but doesn't break the bank?
Yep.
And is the right scale for our donors and our supporters and our audiences. It's something that constantly needs to be calibrated. We're always talking both with our funders, with our board, and with our team. It's really fun. It's not something I've tracked yet, but I'm keeping on working with it. You on it.
Well, I think it's one of those things that one always is working towards and hopefully getting closer, but I don't think anybody ever locks it in.
Absolutely.
So you are an artist by trade, a visual artist, but here we all know you as a fundraiser. Now, fundraising is part of what you do at Opera Santa Barbara, but you're not here to be our primary fundraiser. However, what I want to say is, what drew you into the world of fundraising, and why have you stuck to it for such a long time?
Well, there's clearly more work to be done. I think anyone who's ever studied the arts know that it is a career that it's very hard to do by exclusively. Almost every artist has a second or third gig, including most of the artists we hire at Opera Santa Barbara. My journey became first teaching and working as an artist, and I worked in a contemporary art gallery. Then I began to start writing checks to the artists we were working with, and I began to see how little money they made, even at the upper ends of their profession. So I thought I'd go back and get an MBA, and at the time, there was another career being developed, another master's degree program in nonprofit management and also arts management. It was its own industry. And so I got a degree there, and my work both in graduate school in New York and later drove me to the field of public art. And that field was exploding at the time. Many cities had Percent for Art programs, and I became a project manager for Phoenix, Arizona, Vancouver, and then ultimately San Francisco. In each of those cases, I was the manager between artist and design teams who were creating work in the public realm. They were working with city engineers, architects, landscape architects, and then you were collaborating with urban planners and community members who were going to inherit this work. So it was a multifaceted job where you talked to many parties, all interested in getting a beautiful work of art, but it was collaborative and cooperative. So I did that for many years, and when I moved to Santa Barbara, there wasn't a program of that scale here, so I had to find a new job. I became an executive director for a small nonprofit, and as you discovered, one of the most important jobs for an executive director is to be the fundraiser. You are the chief fundraiser. And while I'd written grants and I could write a fundraising letter, I knew there was more to work at. So I moved on to the Botanic Garden because they had a large capital campaign, and I found a good mentor, and I started raising money for plants. And if you raise money for plants, you can do anything. I'm just joking. But it's
even for opera.
Yeah, you could go. I mean, it was easy coming back to opera. You and I met when I was writing grants. I started writing grants for you, and if you write grants, you get to know an organization. You know its balance sheet, you know its goals, you know what it wants to do. And so fundraising was an interesting step between program management to what is one of the most important aspects of any nonprofit. And I found there were some analogies. I get to work with people who love the arts and care for it, and they want to support it. And I get to work with the artists. I get to work with executive directors. And you really literally have to have a 360 view, both of your community and the organization you're trying to make your case for.
So you've worked at Vancouver, you worked in Phoenix, you were in San Francisco, you're from New Orleans, you've probably worked other places as well. Santa Barbara how's Santa Barbara different? Santa Barbara is a very, very, very peculiar place, isn't it?
It is. It's a gorgeous place. It's why I've stayed here the longest. I think in the other cities I worked with, the difference worked for and in. They were much larger cities, and they invested heavily in the arts as an economic driver to attract community members and residents. So it was a little bit different. I was working in Phoenix, for example, with a $12 million budget each year. Now, that wasn't an endowment. I had to spend that money with city infrastructure.
That's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have. In Santa Barbara, it's a smaller city, but it has just as many art programs as cities much larger. And as a result, they are more dependent on our small pool of donors. So it's competitive, it's high quality, and it requires a different kind of strategy, and one that you need to constantly be moving around and thinking about. Our small organizations, often many live with very, very low endowments or other cash reserves. So you've got to be prepared to change and pivot. It's one of the reasons I liked Opera Santa Barbara so much, is you all were willing to change and rethink things based on current economic conditions. It's harder for larger organizations.
Santa Barbara has to people who are not from here, don't live here, or don't know much about Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara has the reputation for being an affluent community. A lot of my friends and colleagues across the country, when I talk to them, assume that because Santa Barbara is an affluent community, fundraising here should be easy. Is that so?
No. I remember a lot of the grants that I applied for, I felt like putting the word Santa Barbara in front of an organization's name was almost putting us to the bottom of the pile of organizations in need. You're absolutely right. I think there's a prejudice. Similar to, I think there's a prejudice to opera as being an art form only for the wealthy. The fact is that Santa Barbara has one of the highest poverty rates in the state in terms of the county. We are a very diverse population, and our donor pool is small, and we need to respect that and be very sensitive to the fact that many of the people who come here, this is maybe their second or third home. They may be giving to their birthplace in the Midwest, or they may love LA Opera or have their favorite performing arts group. Sometimes we're second or third in line. So that also makes it different.
You are the mother of two young people who just graduated college?
One's been out for a few years, and one just graduated in May.
You also, part of joining the team at Opera Santa Barbara is to be a mentor for the young people that we have on the team. So what do you think, and what would you say to a 20-something that is just entering the workforce? What does the American dream look like for people of that generation?
Well, before I answer that, I want to say one of the attractive things about working for Opera Santa Barbara is you have always, the company in general has always looked to be a place to develop talent, both in the young artists we work with and what happens in the office. So that was a part of the culture to begin with. And I find working in a multi-generational office somewhat rare and very exciting. I like being a mentor, and I'm looking forward to that role, but at the same time, I am learning something every day from Julia, and especially Julia and Jessica. And the new economy is you're constantly learning. That is what this is about. And by having people who are coming from a different generation and telling me things about where they're coming from and their interest in their work goals is fascinating. And I'm constantly trying to calibrate my own feelings and work to set them up for success. I think whether you're a manager in the arts or whether you're a manager for Deckers, the idea is to develop someone who loves what they do and is gaining valuable knowledge that they can either take or continue to develop there. For my own kids, and I think for the colleagues in my office, it always comes down to passion and doing what you love. And in talking to Julia, it's what's happening today that we're really liking and what's not, and how do you work to your strengths. And I think that it is cross-generational to work with your strengths and your passions and being able to be flexible and adaptable. This company also is very flexible and adaptable, so I think we're preparing our workers and our artists for their next job. We have to look at that even though we want them to stay with us forever, that's not the economy we're in. And the best we can do is make them have an incredibly valuable experience with us and take what they learn in the art. We do your ethos of Team OSB. That is what we call ourselves when we're not calling each other chef.
Yeah.
I think you and I am trying to follow in your footsteps to foster a team spirit. Often the arts and sports seem like competing sectors, but I don't think that's true here.
Yeah.
I think a well-run company, a well-run production is really about team building and fostering a sense of belonging and collaboration, and that's what happens here.
Yeah. So, when I twisted your arm to sit for this interview, you said you're going to do it under the condition that I have to answer your questions too. So it's your turn now.
Absolutely. Just as I had to look back hard when I made a decision to come back, I think introspection is important at all phases of the job. And I just realized that next year is going to be your 10th year in some leadership capacity. I believe you arrived as artistic director, and then you were moved into artistic and general director. But now with 10 years and a pandemic behind you, is there anything that you can say that changed in this 10 years besides the pandemic that has helped you grow and look at your art form and how you lead differently?
Jeff Bezos said, I think this must have been sometime during the pandemic. I don't know where I read this, but he said, everybody asks me about what is changing. Well, in fact, what matters is what is not changing. I think in that sense, not a lot is really changing. We just hopefully get better at doing what needs to be done, and we get the better approach to especially in the performing arts. Is one thing that's a constant. The audience wants and deserves quality. Our artists want and deserve a place that helps them do their best work and to grow, and that will never change. The operating environment always has variability, but I think what I would say, what has, looking back at my 10 years with Opera Santa Barbara, is that I'm extremely grateful to have had a board that has been extremely supportive, and supportive in a way that boards don't often are, which is to encourage and accept experimentation. A board that really empowered me to follow my instincts and supported me, so I've learned so much. And I think the company is doing well. We had one of the best seasons we've had, in everyone's memory this past year. But I think that's a result of we've got better at doing this, and I'm grateful to the board that has accepted change, and not just accepted, but has encouraged change, and that has been one of my great satisfactions here. I learn something every day, and I get to try something new every day.
That is a great luxury, and it's really important. I think a great board, and a board that allows, especially in the arts, some risk-taking is critical. And it's very, let's acknowledge, it's very hard for them to do that when their other chief responsibility is fiscal accountability.
Absolutely.
Opera Santa Barbara has a great board. My second question for you comes from your love of business and being a student of business. You and I, ever since I started at the company, have been talking about case studies and how the world outside of the arts works and what we can learn from them.
Yeah.
In fact, during the summer, including this summer, we do OSB Academy, and we have readings, and we discuss some of the great business success stories and philosophies about how businesses are run, and we discuss how that might relate to us. Do you have any insights right now for me about some of what the Academy is working on that you would like to see OSB tackle in the next 5 years?
You know, the Academy is sort of it's something that came out of my desire to sort of pass on some of the things that I've learned, and also to I mean, the Academy comes from the fact that I tell the team that I treat everybody as a future general director, whether they like it or not, because I think that's where the strength of the team comes. Everybody needs to lead, and everybody needs to have ownership. And I happen to think that an opera company is primarily a theatrical producer. Our job is to produce great shows and sell tickets to them. Now, the tickets will never pay the bills. That's why we're a nonprofit. But I think our primary responsibility is a business responsibility. And that's why I think I've found on occasion that our sector is a little bit isolated. It's a little bit in a bit of an echo chamber. We think of ourselves as nonprofits first, and I think we need to be thinking ourselves as businesses first, that produce something that you have to produce something that people want and people are willing to buy. And I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned in the business world about how to do that, and I think they translate very well to the nonprofit performing arts.
And I would say that some of those ideas have been successful for you. We look at our last 6 performances. One of your goals was to sell out every show, and we are pretty much successful in doing that.
Right. I think also the flip side of that is that the future of the performing arts, the charitable funding for performing, philanthropic funding for the performing arts, is never a sure bet.
That's true.
Foundations change priorities. If the social, political, cultural environment changes, donors make different decisions about where to give their money. So there's no guarantee that donations will always. I mean, I believe that there will always be there, but I think we have, and we owe it to our donors to earn as many of the dollars that we need to produce. And I think the selling tickets and paying some of your bills, more of your bills from tickets, is a responsibility that we have to our donors. And also, I think it's a matter of relevance. I think if people aren't buying what you're doing, you should probably be doing something else.
Well, with that, I want to come full circle. You started with I am an artist and trained as an artist, and so are you. Let's bring this back to the art of opera.
Yep.
One of my first questions is, you are a conductor and you've conducted hundreds of operas. And is there one work that do you ever get tired and say, I don't want to do this? And is there ever one work that you will never get tired of? Conducting, performing, tell me where your gateway is into this art. And there's a whole nother section about your artistic choices for the company, and maybe that's another boat ride. But I want to hear from you as an artist and your own thoughts about your creative journey.
Yes, being a conductor is very important to me, and I enjoy it enormously. It's why I got into opera. As a conductor, I just love what's happening in the theater. I love the people. I love being in the pit with the orchestra. I love how many different talents are involved. I love the complexity of it, and I love the repertoire. I love all of the repertoire. But I also know that there are a lot of very, very fine conductors, young conductors who need their work. I also know that although I love Bohème, and it's actually a very difficult piece to conduct. So I've done a lot of Bohèmes, and I just don't need to do another Bohème. So I'd rather give the work to somebody who really needs to do their first Bohème. We are a company that is firmly rooted in the classical repertoire. And we're going to be doing the top 10 operas, and those I would probably not conduct when they come back for that reason. Now, there's one of them that might be an exception. Actually, there are two of them that are an exception. One of them is Verdi's Traviata, and the other one is Puccini's Tosca. Now, the latter is because I've only done it once, and I want to do it again, because you really don't learn it until the second or third time. Okay. But Traviata has a very special place in my heart, and as far as the top 10, the war horses, I think I'm going to find it very hard to let it go next time. So the bill.
Wow. And my last question is, so we are going to start our season in November. We have 3 great operas planned. If someone is new to opera, and they're all your children, this may be hard, but if you could only see one of those, if you were new to opera, what would the opera need to be?
That's interesting. It's an interesting question. I get the question. I get asked that question a lot. All opera lovers are not the same. Mm-hmm. So it's not like one thing that opera lovers do. The opera lovers are just myriad different.
That is true.
And so people who are new to opera are also not one category. To me, that makes perfect sense. Not every first person who goes to the opera for the first time is going to like the same thing. I would like to think that in this particular season, any of the 3 would probably be a good first opera. Cavalleria Rusticana is the classic Italian drama. Great tunes, great choruses, just beautiful and tragic. Caesar and Cleopatra is a historical drama, and the music by Handel is basically the best music of Handel is in that opera. It's like we're doing a short version. It's going to be about the 2 hours of the best Handel tunes you will ever get.
And the last Handel we did was Simile, yes?
Correct. And then the final one is one of my absolute favorites that I've been wanting to bring here for a long time. It's Elmer Gantry, based on the Sinclair Lewis novel. And I honestly believe it is the most entertaining American opera of the 21st century. So I think, you said they're all my children, and if somebody were to see only one, I would say just pick one.
Just pick one. I would agree. I think one of the biggest eye-openers for me is I brought a lot of stereotypes to this art form, even being in the arts. And if there's one thing I know I've learned is there's no one type of opera donor or patron, and certainly not one type of opera artist. I think being open to any and all of those pieces are absolutely the message that we want to leave our friends with.
Absolutely. So thank you all so much for sticking with us through the inaugural episode of On Deck with Maestro. Thank you, Nina. Always a pleasure. Great to have you on the show and as my colleague at the company.
Likewise.
Thank you, Julia, for filming. And please let us know how we did in the comments. And also hit the subscribe button so that you know when the next episode of this or whatever other crazy thing we set out to do is going to come your way. Thank you, and we'll see you at the water and at the opera.